The lamps in Sinbad's hall burned softly as the evening breeze stirred the silk curtains. The porter sat cross-legged before his host, his eyes bright with curiosity. Sinbad the sailor raised his cup and smiled faintly. "My friend," he said, "when I returned from my second voyage, I swore by God that I would never again trust myself to the sea. I built a fine house, filled it with treasures, and lived in comfort and peace. But rest is a poor companion to one who has tasted the ocean. Its voice calls to a sailor even in his dreams. The sound of wind on the Tigris was like a whisper, urging me to return. At last I could resist it no longer. When my longing overcame my reason, I gathered goods of great value, aloes, ivory, ebony, and precious cloth, and went down to Basra. There I found a ship preparing to sail for distant lands. I joined her crew, and soon we set out upon a calm and shining sea. For many weeks fortune favored us. We traded from port to port and filled our holds with riches. Then one night, without warning, the wind turned against us. Clouds rose from the horizon, dark as mountains, and thunder rolled like drums of war. The captain shouted to strike the sails, but the storm struck first. The mast snapped, the timbers groaned, and the waves hurled us far from our course. For days we were tossed upon that merciless ocean, the sky hidden, the compass useless. At last, the storm broke. A pale dawn rose, and before us lay an island veiled in green mist. The captain gazed upon it, and his face turned pale. "Beware, my brothers," he said. "I know this place. It is the island of the Short Ones, fierce people who swarm like locusts and seize every ship that touches their shore." But the wind had died, and the current drew us nearer. The anchors would not hold. Soon the hull touched sand, and we could do nothing but disembark and stretch our weary limbs. The island seemed peaceful at first. We walked among trees heavy with fruit and streams that glimmered through the grass. Then, as we turned a bend in the forest, the ground began to tremble. Out from the trees poured hundreds of small men, no taller than a child, yet broad and quick, with fierce eyes and high voices. They carried spears of bamboo and moved like an army of ants. Before we could draw our knives, they surrounded us on every side. The captain cried out, "Do not fight! They are too many." And indeed, they were. They bound our hands with cords and led us away. Soon we stood before their king, a man as small as they, but stern and sharp-eyed. He studied us for a moment, then gave a brief command. Without a word, his soldiers drove us back toward the shore. There, moored beside the wreck of our ship, were several sturdy boats, plainly built but large enough for sea travel. The dwarves ordered us aboard and took the oars themselves. They rowed with uncanny strength and silence, their small bodies moving in perfect rhythm. All that day and through the night we traveled, following a course known only to them. At dawn of the second day, land rose before us, a dark island crowned with smoke. The dwarfs steered straight for it, brought the boat to shore, and set us free. Then, without a glance or a word, they leapt back into their vessels and vanished into the mist. We explored the island and found the ruins of a great stone house. Inside were heaps of bones, human and beast alike. The stench was unbearable. We whispered prayers and wished to flee, but before we could move, the earth shook with heavy steps. Out of the shadows came a giant, taller than a palm tree, his skin dark as basalt, his single eye burning red in his forehead. His teeth were long and curved, his nails sharp as daggers. He gazed upon us with hunger, and without hesitation seized one of our companions, the largest among us. He thrust a spit through the man's body and roasted him over the fire, then devoured him piece by piece. When his appetite was sated, he lay down and slept upon the ground, snoring like thunder. We huddled together in terror, unable to speak. At dawn, he rose and went out. We thanked God for the brief mercy of his absence, though we knew he would return at nightfall for another of us. When the giant had gone, we searched the hall and found the same iron spit he had used. Its point was blackened by fire. I said to my companions, "Brothers, the monster has but one eye. If we take it from him, we may yet live." We sharpened the spit upon the stones until it was as keen as a sword. When evening came, the giant returned. Again he seized one of us, roasted him, and ate until he was satisfied. Then he stretched out and slept. When his breathing deepened, we lifted the spit and placed its end into the fire until it glowed red. Together we rushed upon him, shouting, "In God's name!" and thrust it into his single eye. The spit hissed as it struck. The giant roared in agony, rising to his feet and smashing the walls with his fists. Blood poured down his face, and his cries shook the island. We scattered like leaves in the wind, hiding among the rocks until his rage had passed. When the night grew still, we gathered at the shore, hearts pounding, and prayed that dawn might bring our escape. At first light, we found the wreckage of some ships strewn across the beach. With trembling hands, we lashed planks together and made a raft strong enough to carry us. The giant's roars still echoed from the cliffs behind us. We pushed the raft into the waves and began to paddle with all our strength. The blind monster heard the sound and came stumbling down to the shore. He hurled enormous stones toward us. Some splashed so near that the spray drenched our faces. But by God's mercy, none struck true. The sea carried us away until the island and its cursed giant were lost beyond the horizon. For 2 days and nights we drifted upon the open waters, clinging to life and prayer. At last, by God's mercy, the current bore us to another shore, green and fair, with trees heavy with fruit and streams clear as crystal. There were 3 of us left. We gathered fruit and water and rested, giving thanks for our deliverance. But as the sun fell and shadows deepened, the earth began to tremble. From the forest came a serpent, vast and terrible, its body thick as a palm trunk, its scales glinting like bronze in the moonlight. Before we could flee, it struck with a hiss like thunder and swallowed one of my companions whole. The other and I escaped into the trees, hearts pounding with terror. All that night we hid among the roots, listening to its coils sliding through the grass. When dawn came, we crept back to the shore and built a small fire, hoping the light might drive it away. But the following night it returned, more furious than before. It found my last companion and devoured him before my eyes. Alone and desperate, I searched the beach for anything that might protect me. From the wreckage of our raft, I took 2 broad planks and bound them across my chest and back with rope, thinking, if the serpent tries to swallow me, these will catch in its jaws. That night, it came again, its eyes glowing red in the dark. It lunged, but the planks jammed in its mouth. It thrashed and hissed, unable to engulf me, and at last retreated into the forest, leaving me trembling but alive. I dared not sleep until dawn. When morning broke, I fell to my knees and gave thanks to the Almighty who delivers whom He wills from death. I wandered the coast in despair, surviving on fruit and rainwater. One morning, as I gazed across the sea, I saw a white sail glimmering in the distance. I tore off my turban and waved it wildly, shouting with all my strength. The ship turned. A small boat was lowered, and soon I was surrounded by sailors who stared at me as though at a ghost. They gave me water and bread and carried me aboard. When the captain saw me, he studied my face and said, "By God, are you not Sindbad the sailor? I once carried your goods before the sea took you." "Indeed, I am he," I answered. The captain thanked God and ordered that I be clothed and cared for. He restored to me the few bales of merchandise that had survived and said, "Your goods were kept in trust, for I had not the heart to sell them." Thus did I recover a portion of my fortune, and with gratitude in my heart, I sailed with him until we reached the port of Basra. From Basra, I journeyed up the Tigris to Baghdad. When I entered my home, my family and servants wept for joy. I gave thanks to the merciful who delivers his servants from the depths of the sea and the belly of the serpent. I distributed alms to the poor, feasted my friends, and offered prayers of gratitude. Yet though I swore again that I would never return to the sea, my heart betrayed me even as I spoke. For the sea, once it has claimed a man's soul, never releases it completely. Sinbad fell silent. The porter bowed his head and said, "Master, your tale is a wonder and a warning. Truly, patience and faith are the oars that carry a man through life's storms." Sinbad smiled kindly and said, "Come again tomorrow, my friend, and I shall tell you of my fourth voyage, when death itself became my companion, and God's mercy opened a door where none could be seen." And so ended the third voyage of Sindbad the Sailor, a tale of terror, endurance, and divine deliverance. Subscribe for more timeless stories from around the world. New adventures every week.